This was a heartbreaking weekend of unspeakable tragedy, and yet one that disturbingly feels all too familiar.
Following two deadly mass shootings that took place in El Paso, Texas and Dayton, Ohio in the span of 24 hours over the weekend, late-night hosts dedicated their Monday night monologues to the issue of gun control, specifically urging Congress to do more in making changes to gun laws. On Late Night, Seth Meyers described the past weekend's tragedy as heartbreaking and a moment that demands moral clarity and urgency from our political leaders. Meyers pointed out that Republican leaders seem to dodge questions from the media related to shootings or gun laws and treat the shootings as an unsolvable problem, even though there's a direct correlation between the number of guns in this country and the number of gun-related deaths in the U.S.
Let me just say, as a general rule, when you're spending all of your time dodging questions from journalists or reporters, that usually means you're on the wrong side of history.
The host also fired back at House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who mentioned that video games could be the trigger for shootings, because that makes the most logical sense.
You do know that other countries have video games too, right? Japan has a huge gaming culture and very few gun deaths. If video games were so influential, they should make one about Congress called Do Something.
Meyers closed out his segment, urging Congress to make a difference.
And as for our political leaders, the ones who are supposed to be protecting us, all we say is they need to
get their together.
There's been a closer look.
Over on The Daily Show, Trevor Noah also pointed out the importance of improved gun laws and safety measures.
You're not saying get rid of guns. You're saying try to minimize the chances of this happening. Try to make it as hard as possible for people to own a gun, because you only want people who are willing to work hard to own a gun to own a gun.
The host also argued back at those who criticize him, saying he doesn't care about the Second Amendment.
Yes, but the Second Amendment fundamentally, if you think about it, is about protecting human beings. That's what it was written. It was about protecting human beings.
Meanwhile, on Jimmy Kimmel Live, the host also shared his sentiments on the horrible, senseless tragedies and the failures of our congressional leaders.
And both parties say one thing, that we're too divided. Well, here's something we can agree on. Too many people are being shot with high-powered weapons. I think we agree on that.
Kimmel points out that according to a poll, 97% of gun owners support universal background checks, and then called out Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who won't allow the Senate to vote on a bipartisan bill that would require background checks.
That he needs to drag his bony gray ass back into work to vote on these bills. Let's start with that thing that we all agree on.
The late-night host also went after Trump, who once again blamed the media for all the built-up rage this country has been suffering. Following media coverage from the weekend's devastating events, Trump tweeted, "The media has a big responsibility to life and safety in our country. Fake news has contributed greatly to the anger and rage that has built up over many years. News coverage has got to start being fair, balanced, and unbiased, or these terrible problems will only get worse." Kimmel fired back at Trump and Republican leaders' assertion that fake news and video games were to blame.
Video games have not been linked to gun violence, but you know what is linked to gun violence? Guns are linked to gun violence. The problem isn't fake news. It's real guns.
And over at The Late Show, Stephen Colbert also fired back at the Republican congressional leaders, specifically McConnell, or as he puts it, the centerfold of Corruption Monthly, who he emphasizes receives a large sum in NRA contributions.
You can't put a price on human life, but it doesn't stop Mitch from trying.
The late-night host continued to argue that the underlying problem with these shootings is the racism existing in the country and being fueled by the president.
It's all well and good. It's all well and good to offer thoughts and prayers, but sometimes you want shouts and swears.
For more late-night updates, head over to THR.com. For the Hollywood Reporter News, I'm Neha Joy.